Alrighty, we're back for part 2. Now on to number 24.
24.
And Sid, this one's for you.
Now Foley, he came in at 24 for us, and I think with good reason. WrestleMania 14 with Terry Funk, his good mate, against the New Age Outlaws, which are on WWE programming now. They should be called the Old Age Outlaws, but that's a different story. Now a dumpster match is quite a good type of match, so I would say this was a good start for Foley. WrestleMania 15, he was against Big Show. I talked about that earlier, but that was to be the ref, which he won the honour of being the ref in the Stone Cold Rock match at WrestleMania 15. WrestleMania 16, he was in his final farewell match, apparently, at WrestleMania. That was in the Fatal 4-Way. He didn't win, but Linda McMahon was the one that brought him back, so he was quite a big character in that WrestleMania. WrestleMania 20, he was part of the Rock and Sock Connection, again against Evolution. Now, when he's teaming up with Rock and Sock, how big a personality can you get? WrestleMania 22, in my opinion, was his best match, and that was against Edge, a hardcore match, putting over Edge as the rated R superstar, the hardcore guy that of the new generation. Really good match. He went through a flaming table, which was cool to see.
Yeah, he's definitely picked up a few bruises. Definitely. He's done his fair share for the company and for wrestling in general.
Absolutely.
Right, now on to number 23. The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Arguably one of the greatest heels of all time, maybe even non-arguably one of the greatest heels of all time.
Wow.
I don't think you can argue the point that he's one of the greatest heels. I mean, the gimmick was unbelievable from day one, and his WrestleMania career, from the start of the, I'd say my most memorable WrestleMania for DiBiase would have to be WrestleMania 4 against Savage in the tournament final, and I think he was actually scheduled to win that match, but Savage didn't like the idea of it.
Yeah.
So unfortunately that was the case, because I mean, even though Savage liked him to win, I think DiBiase deserved a run with the belt, considering how good of a heel he was back then. And yeah, I'd say that was definitely his Mania moment. But I mean, he had a good few Mania moments. I mean, with Jake the Snake at WrestleMania 6, like I mentioned earlier, that was a feud back then. That was one of my first feuds that I really got into, that I really loved. And I think WrestleMania 6 was probably just as memorable to me as WrestleMania 4 was. He then broke away from Virgil, his bodyguard, and had a match with him at WrestleMania 7. And then he started getting into the tag team division with IRS, Million Dollar Man and IRS, and they were a pretty good tag team.
They were a good tag team.
In the early 90s, they were definitely one of the top teams out in the early 90s, and they stayed together for a good year or two, and then DiBiase moved on to managing, and I think he was in the corner of a few of his corporation for a couple of Manias as well. So I mean, like, he's had a
good Mania career.
Yeah, he's had a good Mania career. I mean, and nothing's been outstanding, but I mean, like, I think his personality more than his accomplishments.
I would say, yeah, I agree with that.
Made more of an impact, because I mean, people lower down the list, you might think, oh, they won this, they won that, they won more title matches, they won more important matches, but the personality of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, when you think of WrestleMania, that's why he's at number 23, and I think it's just deserved.
Yeah, I think if you're watching the Manias, you know, back then, you want to see $1 Million Man, don't you?
Yeah, you do. Right, and speaking of back then, number 22.
Number 22, Andre the Giant. Got to have him in the top 30. Andre the Giant. There at the first WrestleMania against Big John Studd, body slamming Big John Studd. What was no easy feats. Then at number 2, he was in the Battle Royale, getting down to the end with no other than Bret Hart. Made pretty easy work of Bret Hart, and then WrestleMania 3. I mean, it's the the biggest WrestleMania match of all time, I would say, in my personal opinion.
Gotta be.
That's, it's, I mean, WrestleMania 3, what was that, over 93,000, something like that?
Yeah.
And I mean,
Biggest crowd ever.
people don't buy tickets just for the sake of it. The main event was Hogan, Andre. People, it got a record attendance, and, they were coming to see those two guys, and Andre was such a massive, massive icon, so was Hogan. People wanted to see Andre beaten, because I think I'm right in saying up to that point he'd never been beaten, never been body slammed, anything like that, and people wanted to see it, and he was just such a draw for WrestleMania, and I mean, that match, it's, I could go back and watch that a million times over, and the stare down between the two of them, it's just unbelievable, and it's just, people, loads of people wanted to be there for that moment, and nobody wanted to miss it.
Yeah, I think Andre's, he was consistent as well. He had like 7 straight WrestleMania appearances, which, even today's standards is still pretty damn good. But I think obviously his limitations came to the better of him. But I think it was a nice fitting end for him to go out when he did, coming out at the WrestleMania 7, helping Big Boss Man against the Heenan family.
Yeah. As well, I liked it when he was when he was with Haku. And dropped the tag team belts to Demolition. I thought that was, I thought he did well then. And then he turned face at the end, didn't he? Because he didn't got in his case, and then he started giving some back to Heenan. Yeah. It was definitely well deserved.
Oh, definitely. And speaking of, number 21 is Bobby the Brain Heenan. Not just that moment, but on numerous other occasions or managerial situations, Bobby Heenan's had a lot of comedy value. He added a hell of a lot of comedy value to WrestleMania. My personal favourite part of Bobby the Brain Heenan at WrestleMania has been his work on the commentary. Even though his managerial roles, such as the Andre incident, Heenan family, all of that, great moments. I think he's even gone in the ring a couple of times. But I mean, my favourite parts of Bobby the Brain Heenan, when I think of Bobby the Brain Heenan at WrestleMania, was his commentary, and I think that would stand up there with the best commentary segments of WrestleMania history, especially the comedy side of it.
I'd say so, and I mean, with his managerial career, I mean, he was probably Hogan's biggest antagonist, really.
And the Warriors, I'd say.
And Warriors. I mean, he kind of perhaps even kind of Hogan's biggest rival was Heenan.
Yeah, I think it was always seemed to be a Heenan guy that was like trying to get Hogan off the top of the tower. But no, I think you got a good point there. It was nice to see him at WrestleMania 17 when he did the Gimmick Battle Royal with Mean Gene. Both of them doing the play-by-play on that one, and that brought back a few memories. And that little segment that he did at WrestleMania 20 with Mae Young and Fabulous Moolah was really good as well.
Yeah.
So, and just deserved WrestleMania Hall of Fame, which was equally as deserved for Bobby the Brain Heenan. So yeah, rightful place at number 21 for Bobby the Brain. But right. So Sid, take it away from number 20, man.
Yeah, next one, Orton, Randy Orton, the Viper. The Apex Predator. What can I say about him? He was in the Evolution Rock and Sock Connection match. So Evolution was the making of Randy Orton. WrestleMania 21, he went for the streak, and this was one of the biggest streak matches. After the Taker's return as the Dead Man, they started really focusing on the streak at WrestleMania, and this was his first one. As he was the legend killer, it really looked like he was going to win against Taker. So good match there. WrestleMania 22, it was a title match with Mysterio and Angle. A good match, not one of his best, but I would say the triple threat wasn't a bad match. WrestleMania 23, he was in the Money in the Bank. Didn't do too much in that. WrestleMania 24, he retained the title against Triple H and Cena, so good match there, and he actually ended up beating both of those legends, so really good match. 25, he was against Trips again, and this was in just a straight up match. It was supposed to be the main event, but it got overshadowed by a match that I'll talk about later. But the build up to that match was incredible, so he was a good personality in that Mania. 26, this was Legacy, where he was part of with Rhodes and DiBiase, a triple threat. So this was a good team self-destructing storyline, so good personality there. 27, he was against Punk and he won, so a good win over a strong character that year. 28 was against Kane. This was quite low on the card, and he lost that match, so not a very good personality there. 29, he was in a six-man tag, so kind of I think his status was going down a little bit in that year, but this year he looks like he's going in there with a title, so yeah, very strong Mania personality.
Yeah, well,
deserves his spot, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he sure has one at the moment at WrestleMania 30 by the looks of it. So
it would appear so.
So let's see how that one unfolds. Right, now down to number 19.
And at 19 is the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle, who is obviously one of the best wrestlers of all time, one of the best technical wrestlers of all time, and made his debut at WrestleMania 16, where he was in the triple threat with Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho, defending his Intercontinental and European title, and then walking away without either of them, losing both of them.
Yeah.
So not a great start.
No, but I think he benefited from that, though, in a weird way.
Yeah, I mean, being in the ring with Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit, I mean, I don't think anyone comes out of that badly.
No.
It does wonders for your career. And then at 17, up against just Benoit on his own. And again, those two, I loved all of their matches, and the Mania match was a particularly good one. And two of the best technical wrestlers ever. And then at 18, up against Kane. Probably not one of his most memorable Mania matches, I would say. And then 19 is when he got the spot he deserved, headlining the WrestleMania against Lesnar in that match. What I'm sure is mostly probably remembered for Lesnar's the botched shooting star press. Yeah, but I mean, you know, at the time Lesnar needed somebody experienced to work with, and
and Angle wasn't even in full health then either.
Yeah, and
he was injured as well.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Angle did, you know, wonders to make that match work well. And then at 20 against Eddie Guerrero, obviously a big fan favourite, Eddie Guerrero, and again another great match between the two of them. And then at 21, I think is his absolutely best moment at WrestleMania by absolute far, by a mile, against Shawn Michaels.
Yeah,
I absolutely love that match. I thought it was absolutely superb. Probably one of my best Shawn Michaels matches as well. I mean, just right at the end where he gets him in that ankle lock, and Michaels keeps trying to get out of it, and he just kept the hold on, and you're just thinking, is Michaels going to tap? Is he actually going to tap? Is he going to make it to the ropes, isn't he? And I was just watching that thinking, oh, is he, isn't he? And then Angle got him, he made him tap, and that was one of the best Mania matches ever, and not many people outclass Michaels at Mania. He was one of the few. Yeah,
he actually matched him for stealing the show. Normally Michaels just does it on his own.
Yeah. And then at 22, right, then he bowed out at 22 for Manias, didn't he? Against Orton and Mysterio, dropping the belt to Mysterio. Not a bad way to bow out, and he had a kind of a straight run between 16 and 22. And then that was it. But I get the feeling we haven't seen the last of Kurt Angle at WrestleMania.
We'll be back. See you at part 3.